Hey everyone, welcome to my SwiftUI crash course. This is going to be a series where I just try and be super succinct and super to the point and show you guys how to use SwiftUI to build real apps, and just showing you guys everything to do with SwiftUI. So please let me know if I miss anything, if you would like more details about something, or in general, please like and subscribe for more. Once you've created your Xcode project, you'll be shown this view. And now we can get right into it. So you'll have the name of your app and it'll have the word app at the end. You can open that and you can see this is where your main app is declared. This is the entry point to your application, and here it'll say content view. I've just renamed it so we can go into that. Double click this to make sure that this tab stays open. And we'll make sure to open our canvas. This will be our live preview of what's going on while we make changes. And let's get right into it. All right, so since this is a SwiftUI crash course, I won't really be going into Swift fundamentals, but if that's something you guys would like, I'm totally open to that. So please let me know in the comments. So you can see our view here is declared as a struct as opposed to a class in UIKit. So that means that its properties can't be modified, which actually causes some interesting scenarios, which we'll get into very soon here. But you can see, so it's a struct, name of the view, and it conforms to this type here from SwiftUI, and has the computed var body, which returns some view, which is also a very cool feature of Swift. Doesn't actually know what it returns until it compiles. So here we've got a text which just says hello world, and you can see as I change that, it updates live right there on the right side in our canvas, which is super helpful when you're developing apps. You can see your changes straight away. The way you interact with SwiftUI is basically through view declarations like this text here, and this is just initializing a struct and passing its parameters. And then there's always, with SwiftUI, there's always different initializers you can use. So you can see here's a couple for passing dates and things like that, or verbatim string. And obviously the next big thing is what are called view modifiers. And basically these are functions that change what's being rendered. So for text, the big one would be font. And then we'll do large title, and you can see it's increased there, so that font has been applied straight away. And then you can basically just press period. Xcode autocomplete will show you all the different kind of modifiers you can use. Some of these will be specific to text and will return text, as you can see here, a text view. And then some of these will just return a view type, and then it'll be type erased and it'll just be a view from then on. But we'll just go ahead and make this a color so we can go red for YouTube. Another important one is just multi-line text alignment, and we'll go leading. So right now it doesn't make a difference, but what I can do, if I insert a new line here, you can see that it's left aligned. And if I do center line, and then of course trailing. So we'll just keep leading for now, and we'll even give this a background, just something like that. Super ugly, but that's okay. And another one, which is pretty much one of my most used modifiers, if I'm honest with you. If you do max width, it's actually .frame max width, and it already knows you want to use infinity because it's very handy. So basically I'll just put enter here, and you'll see that nothing actually changed. And that's because the order of the modifiers matters a lot in SwiftUI. So what's happening here is we've made the background black, and then after that we're telling the view to take up as much width as possible. So obviously the black is applied beforehand, so you wouldn't really see that. But if we take our frame and just move it up a line, Now the background is applied after the view is told to take up as much width as possible. So keep that in mind when you're making your views. If something isn't looking quite right, try thinking about your order of modifiers and which way would make more sense. All right, moving on to image. Obviously text, you can do a lot of stuff with that. And yeah, really should look into the modifiers there, but we'll move on to an image. So we can go image, and you can see there's a lot of different initializers here again. The one we'll do is a resource, an image resource, which is a really cool new thing in Xcode 15, where it generates static, basically it statically generates an enum for your resources, which is super helpful. You don't need SwiftGen necessarily anymore to do that for you. So you can see here, I've got it's called .test, and if I just go to jump to definition, it's actually defined here in our assets file, and it's just an image, which is really cool. It's really handy to make sure that your assets are, type safe. They're there, and you can't go wrong. So here's our image on the right side, and you can see it's pretty much taking up the whole view. Right now it's just going crazy. There's no rules on it. We're allowing it to grow as much as it needs to. And so what we'll do, we'll just do .resizable, and then that'll get it to fit into the width of the phone. And now we'll do we'll give it a frame, and we'll do something like width 100 and height 100, and there's our square. And you can do really cool stuff with SwiftUI. There's things like clip shape. So basically, if you want a profile picture, we can clip it to a shape. This circle. I thought there was it's just rectangle, I believe. You can also do rectangle, which obviously doesn't really show you much, but there's also rounded rectangle. We can give it a corner radius, I believe, which can give you that, which is really cool. So we'll just do circle to get us a profile picture type thing there, and we'll also give it a shadow just to look super fancy. And yeah, you can see how easy it is to compose views and see what you're doing quickly in with SwiftUI. Okay, on to our next view, and these next ones are pretty much building blocks, and they're super necessary for constructing complicated views, and they are HStack and Vstack. So if you remember stack views from UIKit, they're basically that, but much easier. So you can see we've got a Vstack here, which can take an alignment, a spacing, and a content callback. So we'll just give it a content, and actually we want to use a trailing closure because we're nice like that, and then we'll just let that parse, and we've got a placeholder, so we'll just do hello, and we can add another text here. So we've got hello world, and we can look at our alignments and spacing arguments here. Thank you, Xcode autocomplete. We'll just ignore you, I suppose. So if you do a period, you can see we've got leading, center, trailing, and a couple of different options there. So if you do leading, you can see it's basically acting like multi-line text alignment would. But to get a better idea of what's going on here, we can use this debug modifier that I've added. Basically, it's a view modifier, which I'll get into in a future episode. But basically, it's so we can just do .debug on a view, and it'll add a random background color so we can see the view's frame. So we'll just do .debug here, and that'll give us a view there, a background there, sorry. And we can also go ahead and add a spacing, and basically this is a spacing between each of the individual items. So we can do something crazy here like 20, 100, and that's just adding 100 pixels of spacing between the two text views there. Alright, so I'm going to talk a little bit about the alignment with these stacks because it's super important and it's super powerful. So basically right now you can see that it's kind of just acting like multi-line text alignment, where it's moving hello but not world. So that's because for stack alignments, it's the alignment for the perpendicular axis. So for Vstack, it's the horizontal alignment, and for HStack, it'll be the vertical alignment. And it basically aligns the views depending on the available space. So right now, our Vstack, we can see with the green background, is only taking up as much space as it needs to. So if you go ahead and increase that space, you can see world gets pushed to the left because it's center aligned, and hello, because it's a smaller view widthwise, it's actually aligned to the center. So if you do trailing or leading, you can see it moves around as you would expect it to. A bit hard to see there, but that's okay. And yeah, it's super handy, and we can go on and change this to a HStack, which will now make our alignment vertical alignment, which has no member leading, of course. And what we'll do here is top, and now we need to increase our views height so we can see what our alignment is doing. So you can see hello again is aligned to the top, whereas world is, because it's taking up so much space there, it's also top aligned. So it's basically aligning the view that doesn't take up as much space to that what you specify here. So if we do center, we'll get our hello world here, and also bottom. So HStacks allow you to H and Vstacks allow you to combine lots of views, and basically any combination of these, you can nest HStacks within Vstacks or vice versa. You can build any number of complicated and complex layouts. So our next grouping / building block view is actually called group itself. And before I show that to you guys, I'm just going to get rid of this debug so we can see our text a bit better. And what I'll do is add a group here. So you can see it's a type that collects multiple instances of a content type like views, scenes, or commands into a single unit. And it can be super helpful for basically doing exactly what it says, grouping views into one view, but still retaining their individuality. So HStack and Vstack do actually have limits around how many views they can contain. So if you have a lot of text or something else inside of a stack, the compiler can start to get a bit slow and tell you that this expression takes too much time. And what you can do is introduce groups or separate out sections into separate views or vars inside your view. And the cool thing about groups is that it can apply modifiers to each of the elements individually. So if we do .debug here, you can see that it's applying to each of the views instead of saying group has its own frame, which would be like this wide, which would be as wide as basically what the HStack is. It's applying to each of the text views separately. So it can be super handy for when, say, you have a Vstack, and we'll just get rid of this alignment for now. And we'll also make our things not so far apart. So say you have a Vstack, which is super common. Our layouts are usually vertical, and you want to add padding, horizontal padding to these two views here, but you don't want to add it to say this and this. So if you wanted to do, it would be pretty cumbersome to just do this every time you wanted to, but instead you can just group them, add it to the group, and you'll only have it for those ones there, just like debug. So that's really powerful for groups, and you should use them when you need to simplify your view, make it easier for the compiler, or you have some modifiers that you want to apply to a couple of views and you want to reuse the same modifiers instead of just writing it multiple times. So combining everything we've got so far, what we can do is grab our text and our image, and we'll just place it into our Vstack. Oops, I meant to do that. There we go. And you can see now that our views are laid out vertically, but say this was a profile kind of row, what we'd want to do is make it a HStack, put our image on the left, so we'll put that first, get rid of this horrible background, and then we'll also get rid of that, and we can change this to our name here, so cloud. And you can see that it's not taking up as much space as we would like, but what we can do to rectify that, we can give this a max width here and infinity. So now you can see it's getting more to what we want. But of course, what we can do also with frames, you can pass an alignment. So you want to be leading. So you can see now that we're left aligned there. I'll get rid of this debug and we can give it an actual decent border, decent background, gray. And what you can also do with backgrounds actually is pass it shapes. So we can do rounded rectangle with a corner radius, and we can give it a fill of, say, blue. It's kind of nice. And we're touching our edges too closely, I think, so I'll just give it a padding. That looks nicer, and I'll even give this a padding, so we're not touching the edges of the screen. And red no longer looks good, so we'll go back to we'll make this white, so you can see that looks kind of nice. And yeah, so here in this scenario, you might want your username to be aligned, so we'll make our alignment top, which will move our name up to the top of the image. And say we have another text here, something like where the user is from, but we want it to be under cloud, not next to it. So what we'll do is we'll take these, we'll put them inside a Vstack like that, and you can see now they're vertically aligned there. And now I think it makes more sense to be centered like that. That looks nicer. And see how all our modifiers here are repeated. We can just grab them, take them off both, add a group, and close that off, and apply our modifiers to the group. So now we're only doing our modifiers once, but they're getting applied to both. So now we've got a much cleaner view structure here. And yeah, that's everything we've got so far. So what I'll do is grab our row here, call this our row, and I'll just do that, and we can keep that here for now. Oops, should be capital V there. So that's how you can split up your views and make your layout much nicer. And then the next thing we'll be looking at is actually list. So like this, and what we'll do is create a list of users. So we can have we'll have me, John, and Mary. So another super useful view in SwiftUI is called for each, and basically it loops well, you pass it, so we can pass it users, and also it takes an ID key path, and we'll just pass itself because it's a string, and then we'll go with user in. And so now we can give it a view to render for each of our users. So we've got 3 users, so we get the row 3 times, but obviously it's saying cloud for all of them, which is not right. So what we can do is we can change this to a function that takes a name string that returns a view, and we can change this text here to be the name, and go back up here, initialize it, and just pass it the user. So you can see really quickly that our row has become super powerful, and now we have rows of users here inside a scroll view. And yeah, but if say we just did text for our user like this, you can see that we've got our dividers and everything like the default native kind of Apple iOS way. So list provides default stylings for you. It's even added a background color. It's made our rows white, and yeah, the separator is also there. So it can be super useful. There's also scroll views. Say we don't want any of that styling, but we still want it to scroll, so we can just change that to a scroll view. We'll go back to a list. And yeah, last but not least, and maybe most useful, I'll be showing you guys a button. So what you can do is do button, and you can see there's a lot of things you can do here. We'll be going for the action one, and we'll get a label here, and we'll change this label to be our user's name. And you can see that they become blue, and you can press on them and they have the animation you would expect, but obviously right now action does nothing. So what we'll do is we'll say hi to our user, and I'll go into that by just also go alert showing equals false, and what we want to do is do alert showing equals true. And so what you'll see here is first time you run into trying to modify the state of your view, trying to change something inside your struct. And you can't do that because for structs, self is immutable, but SwiftUI has a way to wrap our properties with @state, which allows you to modify them. And it also tells SwiftUI that when this changes, re-render the view. So what we can do is we'll put that as true, and we'll put an alert on our button, which takes and is presented. We'll just use the deprecated one for now, and we'll pass it an alert showing with a $sign because it takes a binding. So bindings always start with $signs, and so we'll do alert showing. We'll get into bindings in the next episode, don't worry. And our content, we'll just do an alert, and we'll give it a title of hi user. This needs to be a text. So like that. So now if you go hi Mary, and hi Mary. So that's a little bug we've introduced there. So just some homework. See if you can figure out how to get it to say hi to the users individually, and I'll give you guys a solution in the next episode. Thanks for watching.